Hello, nice to meet you, Professor and the class CEO. This is Lee Chang-hyuk, the first presenter of the group number 3. The contents is first introduction, second EU3 agreement and UNS sanction, third joint comprehensive plan of action, next current situation and impact on Korea, and the last the conclusion. Introduction. The story starts from 2002. The NCRI, an Iranian anti-government organization, disclosed that Iran had been developing nuclear weapons for the military use, and in 2003, IAEA confirmed it. The moment that conflict between Iran and the international community over the nuclear issues has started. The situation even worsened in 2005. The new president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, said that Iran's nuclear development is an inherent right. After that, UN Security Council adopted a resolution of an economic sanction against Iran in 2006. And then time passes. Hassan Rouhani, who had a will to resolve the conflict, became a new president in 2013. It seemed like there comes a new hope over the nuclear program. So the first negotiation between Iran and 6 major countries took place in Geneva, and almost 1.5 years of long negotiation, the formal ceremony marked the start of the resolution. So it looked like everything was well. However, Donald Trump, who was elected as a new president of the United States, deprecated the former agreement and declared his withdrawal of it in 2018 with issuing an executive order to resume economic sanctions against Iran. Iran's background in nuclear deployment and regions for development. Since the past, Iran has fought with other Sunni Middle Eastern countries such as the Iran-Iraq War in 1980, so Iran always has needed the power to defend themselves. In the middle of the 20th century, Iran had developed a rapid pro-Western policy with the establishment of the Pahlavi dynasty, and Iran had close relations with United States, Britain, and also other Western countries. So Iran could get military aid from the West if a war breaks out in the Middle East. But the Islamic Revolution took place in 1979, brought the discontinuity in relations among Western countries, so Iran became alone. Iran has had a wide land and a military power, but it was not enough to protect themselves from the threat, since there have been many hostile countries against Iran. Plus, the economic power has been weakened by the economic sanctions from the West. So the only way to solve these problems was an asymmetric power, the nuclear. The nuclear power was the only possible means of protecting themselves from the Sunni states and blocking intervention from the West.
From now, I, Min-jung Kim, will speak about negotiations which dealt nuclear issue of Iran as time sequence. As disclosure of National Council of Resistance of Iran in 2002, unregistered facility of Iran was revealed, so relationship between US and Iran became worse. And then EU3, which are France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, undertook a diplomatic initiative with Iran to resolve questions about its nuclear program. EU3 foreign ministers visited Tehran and issued Tehran Declaration with Iran government, specifically Khatami administration, on 21st October 2003. Tehran Declaration has huge meaning as a first settlement to overcome nuclear crisis of Iran. However, IAEA recognized the reports sent by Iran was different with actual activities, so that Iran and IAEA conclude additional protocol on 18th December 2003. As a result, Iran signed to engage in full cooperation with the IAEA to address and resolve through full transparency all requirements and outstanding issues of the agency to clarify and correct any possible failures within the IAEA. Although uranium enrichment of Iran was suspended, the problem was how far the enrichment activity would be covered. Thus, Iran and EU3 signed Paris Agreement to supplement the problem of Tehran Declaration on 14th November in 2004. According to Paris Agreement, Iran committed to voluntarily suspend all activities related to enrichment and reprocessing. It included controversial activities such as conversion of uranium. EU3 and Iran confirmed that the suspension of these activities is part of voluntary confidence building measurements. So, during the Paris Agreement, cooperation was taken smoothly during the long-term negotiations between two sides. Despite of these efforts, after Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who is an anti-Western and strong conservative, was elected as a president in June 2005, the atmosphere was totally changed. Ahmadinejad criticized nuclear negotiation which made by former President Khatami and Rouhani. He restarted operation of nuclear facilities and enrichment of uranium. The negotiation between EU3 and Iran was suspended, and IAEA decided to send nuclear development issues of Iran to UN Security Council because it violated peaceful research purpose. In March 2006, UN Security Council urged Iran to cease all enrichment and reprocessing activities permanently, but Ahmadinejad administration ignored it. Therefore, UN Security Council finally adopted Resolution 1696 against Iran in July 2006. The contents are as follows. All enrichment and reprocessing activities, including Iran's research and development to nuclear program, should be suspended and verified by the IAEA. All countries are required to monitor and prevent the transfer of items that could contribute to Iran's nuclear activities and ballistic missile programs. If Iran fails to comply with this resolution by August 31st, sanctions can be imposed under Article 41 of the United Nations Charter. In spite of these sanctions, Iran continued enrichment and reprocessing activities, so UN Security Council added more several contents in sanctions, and it is Resolution 1737 as you can see on the screen. Even though UN Security Council tried to stop Iran, but Iran never ceased enrichment.
Hi, my name is Jung Hyung-gi. I will explain about Jcpoa Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. First, background of Jcpoa. Despite the UN Security Council's sanctions, Iran has notified the IAEA of its expansion of uranium enrichment facilities and the possibility of a peaceful resolution to the Iranian nuclear issue has become slim. The Security Council imposed sanctions on Iran on total of 6 occasions from 2006 to 2010. Also, the US and the EU put more pressure on Iran with economic sanctions. In the end, the Ahmadinejad government tried to avoid further sanctions, but Iran's economy was broken. Eventually, Iran's nuclear issue was found breakthrough when Hassan Rouhani, a moderate reformer, was elected president in June 2013 in line with calls for economic improvement. Iran signed a tentative agreement, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (Jcpoa) in Geneva, Switzerland on November 24, 2013. The main contents of Jcpoa are the restrictions on Iran's enrichment capacity and uranium stockpile, redesigning or convert some nuclear facilities, lifting sanctions imposed on Iran, and continuing inspection by the IAEA. The Jcpoa has a disagreement between Iran and the US for implementation. The conservative hardline US Congress has consistently expressed concern military buildup and nuclear weapon, and Iran wants to stop economic sanctions as soon as possible. Many years later, US withdrew its Jcpoa. On November 9, 2006, Trump was elected president, and Trump drew keen attention from Jcpoa. Trump has been critical of the JCPOA, foolish behavior, and the worst negotiation. After taking office, Trump created the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act (INARA), a law that would impose new sanctions targeting Iran if not. Trump also strongly criticized the sunset clause, in which most of the JCPOA's obligations expire at 10 years. Iran has firmly refused to renegotiate the nuclear agreement, and roundly said Iran would pursue leaving the JCPOA if US resumes sanctions against Iran. The US eventually officially declared its withdrawal from the JCPOA on May 8, 2018. Trump said JCPOA agreement do not address concern related to Iran growing terrorist activities. Iran strongly condemned the US withdrawal as illegal and said it could remain in JCPOA if benefit to Iran. The relationship did not last long, and Iran began to respond to US economic sanctions. As Iran failed to implement the nuclear agreement and the US assassinated Soleimani, one of Iran's top military powers, at Baghdad International Airport on January 3, 2020. After Soleimani's death, Iran withdrawn the JCPOA and ignored the nuclear agreement set restrictions on its nuclear program. Finally, JCPOA has collapsed.
I'll tell you the current situation and impact on Korea, and conclusion. Iran is one of the key countries in the Middle East with abundant natural resources and a huge domestic market with 80 million people. In 2017, Iran produced about 4 million barrels of crude oil per day, which is the third largest in the Middle East after Saudi Arabia and Iraq. South Korea has 14% of Iran's oil export. Economic cooperation between South Korea and Iran is likely to shrink again due to the US withdrawal from the JCPOA in May 2018. So, Korean companies face difficulties in entering Iran. In the oil sector, South Korea has been cutting back on import of crude oil from Iran since 2018, and now, considering the United States, Qatar, and Norway as alternative importers. In the export sector, Korea's export to Iran are subject to sanctions, which are expected to decrease export to Iran. In the construction sector, Korea's overseas construction orders for Iran soared, but they are expected to decline in the future due to the financial procurement problem. In conclusion, there is a high possibility that economic cooperation, import, and export will shrink for a while, but we need to diversify our cooperation channels and maintain friendly relations with Iran through technical cooperation, exchange of expert, and academic exchanges. It will also be a good way to maintain the basis of mutual cooperation. Through this, we should be prepared to increase our preference for Korean companies in Iran. Iran has already taken up a large share in oil export and construction before, and is likely to increase its share again if sanctions are eased. Therefore, it is necessary to maintain good relations with Iran while keeping an eye on the situation of Iran's nuclear agreement. Thank you for listening our presentation. This is Group 3.